Hello and welcome along to the first of our TLG-PE Masterclass videos. This video is designed to give you a real insight into how to build, design, shape your PE curriculum for primary schools. Now, one of the key things we get asked about when we work with schools is their PE curriculum. Is it right? Have they done the right thing? Are they engaging the learners properly? Are they developing skills to the level they should? Are they meeting the needs of the national curriculum? So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to look at that national curriculum. We're going to look at what it tells us we have to do. We're going to look at filling in the blanks. We're going to look at shaping a curriculum, what we should be working on. We're going to look at year group and age group expectations. And we're also going to look at some of the other factors that you need to consider when you're mapping out your curriculum, such as the weather and the facilities that you have in school. Now, firstly, if you are a PE lead and you are looking to map out your curriculum for the next academic year, if you're a new PE lead and it's the first time you're going to look at the national curriculum for PE, you're going to be disappointed. The national curriculum is, in effect, one side of A4, and that is across Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. So we're just going to get rid of me for a little bit and we're going to just look at that curriculum. And we're going to look at fundamentally what the curriculum says you have to be able to do in Key Stage 1. Now, this is 3 bullet points that pupils should be taught to do. And it's mastering basic movements, it's participating in team games, and it's performing dances. Now, as a PE lead, you've got to come up with how you put that into reality for your school. And also, what actually do you want to see when children leave year 2 in your school? And also, what happens in FS2 before they get to Key Stage 1 to allow us to progress better in Key Stage 1. So for the curriculum, your first part of call is looking at how you fill the blanks that this document gives you. When you move into Key Stage 2, it doesn't get a lot better. You're still faced with just some very vague areas that children should be taught to do. Now again, you need to set out a plan for how you take those skills and implement them, but also how you beef that up throughout the 4 years and what you do as a school to track progress and make sure there is progress to the exit point that you want to see in year 6. So basically you have to think about, are we getting the children ready for Key Stage 3 learning? Are we getting them ready for a lifetime of healthy living and active sport? Or are we just ticking these 6 boxes because that's vaguely what the curriculum says we should do? Now, curriculums that are open to interpretation can be fantastic, it can be great, but it can also give you the element now that you have to look at the perception of what you see on that document and how you then fill the blanks in around it. And this is one of the problems we find when we go into schools, is that the way that one person designs their curriculum is very different to another, and they don't necessarily look at the curriculum as a whole and the child development as a whole to make sure that their exit points are where they want and need to be when the children come to their end of time in FS2, Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. Now, FS2 we're not going to cover overly today because obviously this is about the national curriculum. What I will say at this point is that FS2 plays a vital role in getting children ready to learn in Key Stage 1 PE. If you're looking at exit points for FS2, you need to be thinking about children being able to get changed in a time efficient manner so that it doesn't impact PE learning, children being able to wait their turn, children being able to take turns and share equipment, children being able to work together as part of a team, and then you're looking at your fine and gross motor skill development, which will come through in your EYFS learning. But from a PE perspective, it's those skills of being able to get changed, getting to the hall to a point where we can learn quickly. Being able to share equipment, being able to hold equipment properly, having the grip strength to hold things, being able to take turns, being able to work as a team, being able to share feedback and ideas. All these skills can be embedded in your FS2 curriculum. What you want to be able to do is map the curriculum out as a whole, and the key to that is keeping it simple. Now, Key Stage 1 is very widely accepted that you look at a multi-skills and multi-sports approach to learning. So we look at getting a lot of equipment involved, we use the skills such as throwing, catching, striking, fielding, and we learn to try and do those skills as we go. Key Stage 2 is a bit more of a open book because some schools continue that process of skill development through multi-games approach, and some schools take a sport-specific approach to learning in Key Stage 2. From our point of view at TLG-PE, we absolutely advocate a sport-specific approach, and from the graphic you see on the screen, what you're basically looking at is a whole load of skill in Key Stage 1, lots of activities, lots of different things, and then in Key Stage 2, taking those on individual journeys up to the top of that specific sport mountain. Now, what I don't want you to get confused with here is that we are just teaching these sports for the purpose of teaching these sports. We're not trying to develop a good football player if we teach football in our Key Stage 2 curriculum. What we're trying to do is use specific sports to build a knowledge base that is then transferable across different sports. If you try and teach a child attacking and defending principles in hockey, having never played hockey, they're going to actually be focused on learning the skills of hockey, not the attacking and defending principles of the sport. And those attacking and defending principles can then be transferred into rugby, football, handball, basketball. So really, by a sport-specific approach, what we're looking at doing is just saying, no, we just want to use these sports as a mechanism to get further on the learning journey because you know how to play the sport. You've developed your knowledge of the sport as a game so that we can then put more depth into our learning. That's the approach when you're looking at a single sport rather than just a skill-based multi-sport approach. Now, in Key Stage 1, the core aim is technique and skill development. So this is basically, we're trying to just develop children who can complete fundamental actions with an element of skill. Now, what that means in reality is we're looking at technique and skill development. So if you're not aware from a coaching point of view, technique is being able to do something. Skill is being able to do it with game pressure thrown into the mix. So, for example, Tiger Woods would practice chipping out of a bunker onto a green. His technique would be the things like keeping his head still, making sure his swing comes through, planting his feet, trying not to move his body. The skill element of that is then being able to replicate that with 70,000 people watching you live in the US Masters on the 18th hole, where you need to get it in two to win the tournament. Can you do that technique when you have the added pressure of the game situation? Now, obviously, in Key Stage 1, we are not putting people into an environment where they are in the US Masters. However, what we can do is we can add game pressure by simply giving them something else to think about. So it might be a time constraint on a game. You must complete it before I count down to 0. It might be a defender being in the game. So throwing and catching in year 1 would be about technique, getting your hand into the right position, moving your feet, watching the ball come down. The skill element of that might be turning it into a game like Piggy in the Middle, where now you've got to throw and catch, but there's another person trying to intercept it. So we're not talking about moving them into matches. We're talking about changing them into games and adding game pressure, because that's going to help us develop skill. So really, in a nutshell, what you're looking at is technique, then skill. So in year 1, you're looking at core actions in isolation. So core actions are throwing, catching, striking, receiving, kicking, jumping, stopping, passing, shooting, hitting. And then in year 2, we're looking at developing core actions in a game environment, skill development. So technique in year 1, skill in year 2, taking us to a point where we then end up with, at the end of Key Stage 1, a skillful element of knowledge, but fundamentally a really sound technique. So we can have children going into year 3 who can throw, who can catch, who can kick, who can hit something with a bat, who can hit something with a hockey stick, who can stop a ball moving towards them on the floor, who can jump over a hurdle, who can run. So we have that as a skill. So we have that as a skill where they can do it in a game, but we have it as a really, really solid technique, and they can do it relatively well. And that's our exit point for year 2. That's what we want our curriculum to build when we look at what we want our exit point to be. Key stage 2 takes us then into developing that skill and adding in game sense. So game sense is being able to put tactics, techniques into play in a game to be able to move forward and learn a bit more about that game. Now, when we look at Key Stage 2, we generally have 3 different types of activities in Key Stage 2 PE. We have invasion games, we have striking games, and we have individual PE topics. So invasion games are anything like hockey, netball, basketball, tag rugby, football, handball, ultimate frisbee. Any more? Invasion games. Flag football, things like that. Striking games, tennis, cricket, rounders, badminton, anything where you're kind of hitting and striking. And then individual PE topics, so where they're not necessarily team elements, so things like gymnastics, dance, athletics, OAA. So you build your curriculum using 3 different types of activities: invasion games, striking games, or individual topics. Now, when you use invasion games, the key thing to remember here is that you are developing skills through that game. So to truly develop that skill, you need to understand the game and be able to participate in it fully. So you need to know how to use the equipment, win the equipment, and then understand the tactics and rules. So if we put that into rugby, for argument's sake, using the equipment, you need to know how to pass the ball, you need to know how to run with the ball, you need to know how to catch the ball, you need to know how to score a try with the ball. Okay? Winning the equipment, how do I get it when the other team have got it? So I need to know how to make a tag or a tackle. But I also need to know how to try and beat that person who's trying to tackle me. So I need to be able to beat somebody in a 1v1. I need to be able to beat someone in a 2v1 situation. So I need to be able to play the game. Once I can play the game, I can then learn about its tactics and its rules, and then I can develop that further. If I don't know the skills needed to play the game, it makes it very difficult to develop my knowledge of skill of being able to then go and play that game and play it well and put different tactics into place. So we do that by progressive learning, and we build on the blocks. So we look at being able to, in year 3, move with the equipment, pass the equipment, receive the equipment, and score with the equipment. So we do that in whatever sports, whatever invasion games we do in year 3, we learn the same kind of things. So in netball, we would learn how to pass the ball in a chest pass, bounce pass, shoulder pass, how to receive it without breaking the footwork rule, and how to score. In hockey, we would learn how to dribble, we would learn how to pass, we would learn how to receive, we would learn how to shoot. In rugby, we would learn how to run with the ball, pass with the ball, receive the ball, and score a try. We're doing the same fundamental skills, we're just using different sports as a mechanism to learn it. In year 4, we then take that and we do the same sports again, but we now look at how we win the equipment off the other team and how we beat a defender. Because we've already done in year 3, the carrying the ball, the passing the ball, the receiving the ball, the scoring with the ball, now we're just tagging onto it. We're extending our knowledge. In year 5, we've now got a pretty good idea of how to use the equipment when we've got it and how to win it back when we haven't. So now we're going to go into small-sided games and look at the attacking and defending principles of the sport. So we may look at width as a great attacking principle. So width in rugby means that you would use a wide pitch because basically you can score against the full width of the pitch. So the person who is near the side has a really good opportunity to score in the corner. So subsequently you have to defend quite wide because you're defending the whole pitch. In hockey, because the goal is in the middle of the pitch, like in netball, you can defend narrower because the attacking team have to go round the outside to come in. So basically, we're looking at the attacking and defending principles of different sports. We're just using those sports to extend our knowledge of how you attack and defend in a range of sports. But because we've got that basic knowledge of how to play rugby, how to play hockey, how to play netball, or whatever our core sports are, we can push that learning forward. In year 6, we then look at saying, okay, so now we know how to attack and defend. We understand that. Can we now make the right decisions in the game to choose the right option when it comes to attacking and defending? So we're going to play the matches, but can you move the ball wide when you should? Can you change the speed of your attack when you should? Can you defend differently based on the situation you're faced from your opposition? Can you referee and keep score fairly because you now know the games, know the rules? Can you now implement fairness into that learning as well? So we take that journey to go 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you look at this graphic on the screen, this is an example of hockey. It kind of leads you through the learning. But in each year group, in year 3, we're looking at going back to moving the ball, catching the ball, receiving the ball. In year 4, tackling, 1v1, 2v1. In year 5, understanding the attacking and defending principles. In year 6, applying those principles in a game. Netball, exactly the same. 3, moving the ball, different passes, different receiving. 4, winning the ball, beating defenders. 5, understanding the attacking and defending principles. 6, applying them in a game. So whatever sports we use, we're just developing that range of techniques and skills. In striking games, it's a little bit different, but similar. So we look at year 3, technique. How do I hit a forehand? How do I hit a backhand? How do I strike a cricket ball off a tee? In year 4, it's skill. Okay, so now I need to think about technique plus game pressure equals skill. So how do I hit a ball that's been hit at me rather than just one that I hit myself? How do I play a rally? How do I strike a ball to try and score runs when there's pressure on? In year 5, how do I look at the attacking and defending principles of the sport? How do I attack in tennis? I move closer to the net. How do I defend? I stay in the point at the back of the court. How do I attack when I'm batting at cricket? I play big shots, I attack, I play aggressive cricket. How do I defend? I try not to lose my wicket, I try and stay in the game. How do I attack when I'm fielding? I have the fielders nearer the batsman trying to get them out. How do I defend when I'm fielding? I have the fielders on the boundary trying to stop runs. And then in year 6, can I put that into matches? Can I see in a tennis game when my opponent is on the ropes, and can I move into an attacking phase, and can they move into a defensive phase? Can I understand the situation in a game of cricket where I need to start batting more aggressively, more attackingly? Or do I see that actually I need to not get out because the situation means I need to choose that principle? So although they're different, invasion games, striking and fielding games, the concept 3, 4, 5, 6 is exactly the same. So again, tennis, just taking that journey. And these are really great visuals to have when you're looking at explaining to the children why they do what they do in each year group. Individual PE topics, very much like building a house. So what you're doing is you are trying to add knowledge each year group, not replace. So you're building on foundation. So think of it like building a house. You've got your FS2, your Key Stage 1 foundations. You've built a nice solid base. Your bricks to your first layer of your house are those individual skills. And the cement to hold that together is practice and repetition. So we're going to learn those skills. When those skills are embedded at the end of year 3, we're then going to start our year 4 journey, and we're going to build on top of the first line of bricks we've done in year 3. If we don't get that right, then obviously the whole thing collapses. So it's an addition, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6. And looking at the athletics map, that's exactly what that map would show you. You know, triple jump is a fine example. Year 3, being able to hop and then skip. Year 4, being able to hop and skip with balance. Year 5 and 6, being able to hop, skip and jump in combination. Year 6, being able to hop, skip and jump dynamically. Bang, 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 bang. Learning those skills, developing them year on year. Now, other considerations that you need to throw in when you're building your curriculum is obviously a few things. Firstly, your facilities. If you don't have a school field, then putting in games like tag rugby into your curriculum will be quite limited. So you need to look at which invasion games you can comfortably, safely play on a playground. So things like basketball, netball, handball, they're good ones for playing on a playground. The seasons is also a really important element when you're looking at mapping your curriculum. So what you want to do is use sports in winter term where going inside is a relatively simple transition. So things like hockey, you know, if it rains, you can go in the hall, you can still do dribbling, passing with hockey, whereas rugby, for example, is not a very easy to transfer inside sport. Basketball is quite difficult to transfer inside because most schools have fixed posts on the playground. So it's being clever about what you should do when, utilising the summer terms, so from Easter onwards, double outdoor PE rather than an outdoor and an indoor, getting the children outside, summer term athletics, summer term cricket, rounders, you know, those really fundamental summer sports that are going to help children get a bit of sunshine, but also use that time of year to really develop those sports. Equipment, obviously having the equipment to play the sports that you want to do, it actually can be quite beneficial to narrow your PE curriculum a little bit, because that means that you're then not going out and spending hundreds of pounds on different equipment that gets used very rarely. You can have a core set of really good equipment, and then your sort of diversity in your curriculum, your additional stuff comes into your extracurricular provision. So you have a very set curriculum, and then you bring in the additional sports and perhaps the things that, like the archery and fencing and bocce that we talked about earlier, into an extracurricular provision to give that variety. Demographic of the school is important when you're mapping a curriculum. You know, a lot of schools who have a high Asian population will look at making sure cricket is in their curriculum. If you have certain sports locally that are quite prominent, you know, if you're in a rugby league town, or if you're in a big footballing community, then you may want to look at adding those into your curriculum to help engage the children and make the children kind of more energized by their PE lessons. And lastly, one to think about is your secondary school, your predominant feeder that you feed into, and what they do as part of their PE curriculum. You know, if it's a big rugby school, then obviously having rugby in your primary curriculum is going to help your children achieve better in Key Stage 3. If it's a hockey school or a netball school, then obviously having those skill sets in there from an earlier age will help the children exceed. What I will say at this point is, when we're looking at this kind of mapping and this sport, is to not fall into the habit of generalizing sports together. So kind of going, right, well, in May half term, we'll do a racket sport. So we'll do tennis in year 3, badminton in year 4, tennis in year 5, badminton in year 6. It is a bad decision, okay? The only similarity that tennis and badminton have is that they are played on a court and you use a racket. Outside of that, they're different games. You use a different part of your body to strike. You know, one of them is shoulder, one of them is wrist and forearm. You have different rules to the game. You have different net heights. You know, one of them is easier to play outside than the other. One of them really has to be played inside, badminton. You know, they, apart from the fact that they use a net and a racket, the games are different. So to be able to then go, well, we'll do badminton, tennis, you're not going to get that line of learning that we saw on those sport-specific mountains. You're going to get year 3, how to use the equipment, how to hit it in tennis. In year 4, badminton, it's like, all right, I've got to actually learn to use this differently. So I need to almost go back to year 3. And then in year 5, I need to know the attacking and defending principles, but I haven't really done any 1v1 games, so I'm not really game sure about how to play. It just doesn't work. So stick to one sport and go through. Same principle applies with netball and basketball. You know, if you're looking at attacking and defending principles, you penetrate in basketball by dribbling at speed. You penetrate in netball by moving the ball quickly. So their attacking principles are fundamentally different, and the game is fundamentally different. If you want to choose one or the other, then do that, but don't cross them off instead of each other. You can do them both, but you do 3, 4, 5, 6 netball, 3, 4, 5, 6 basketball. Don't do 3 of one, 5 of one, 4 of the other, 6 of the other. Doesn't work. So I will just get rid of me so you can see this in a little bit more detail. This is an example curriculum that you might want to set. Reception is very much topic-based learning, so you would tie that in with your topic, but you'd be a bit more active in what you were doing. And then in year 1 and 2, it's those core skills: striking and fielding, sending and receiving, athletics, attacking and defending, and focusing on year 1, exiting with technique knowledge, and year 2, exiting with basic skill knowledge. Then going into Key Stage 2, you're looking at those core sports. You're looking at, so in this scenario, the school would swim for one of their PE lessons in year 4. So in year 3, 4, 5, 6, autumn term 1, they would do tag rugby and lacrosse. So they're their 2 sports. The only change in that is that year 4 don't do lacrosse because they go swimming. In autumn 2, it's netball and it's gymnastics. So the indoor sport is gymnastics because the weather is probably not going to be great. The outdoor sport is netball because we can transfer that skill inside. Spring 1, again after Christmas, weather not great, so outdoor we're going to do hockey, we can transfer it in. Indoor, that second PE lesson, we're going to do dance because that's using the time wisely when the weather is not great. Spring 2, we're going to do tennis for all, and then we're going to do OAA, outdoor adventurous activities for year 3 and 5, and we're going to let year 6 have a little bit of fun by playing ultimate frisbee, because obviously we're in SATs term and we want to just take that stress out of it for them. And then in summer 1, we're going double outside PE, we're going for cricket and we're going for handball, and that's going to be done in years 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to really push those learning maps. And then in summer 2, we're going to do athletics and rounders. And again, the only deviation from that is that year 4 are swimming for one of their PE lessons. So we've got a broad curriculum, we've got lots of different sports and activities, but we've also got that kind of focus on those core elements that we're trying to develop through year 3, 4, 5 and 6. So in summary, that's kind of where we're at from a curriculum mapping point of view. What we've shown you today is some ideas about how to map your curriculum, how to use those core sports and really develop the learning in those sports, but still having fundamental objectives for each year group. So year 1, technique, year 2, skill, year 3, having the equipment, moving with the equipment, using the equipment, year 4, winning the equipment, beating people with the equipment, year 5, understanding the attacking and defending principles of the game, year 6, application of those tactics and being able to referee and scorekeep, but just using different sports as you go through each year to really, really embed that learning. As ever, you can head over to tlg-pe.co.uk and you can complete the TLG-PE long-term plan builder. It will actually allow you to build a plan directly into the system and download those learning maps that you saw as part of this video. If you need any help or support in any way, then you can contact us via the website, which is tlg-pe.co.uk, or via any of our social media channels. We hope you found this first video in the Masterclass series useful, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.